Amari Cooper, Dez Bryant. You know what? Forget about the news. I have 80 waiver wire pickups this week. It's crucial. Let's go into it. What's going on, fantasy football fans? I'm your host, Hussein the Brain, and you're watching The Couch. These are my waiver wire pickups for week 10. This video is sponsored by Squad QL. If you need a second opinion regarding your fantasy lineup other than mine, then this is the app for you. It syncs with your ESPN, Yahoo, or CBS Fantasy League. It gives player news and top waiver wire ads catered to your team. And of course, my favorite, the one-touch optimize lineup button that automatically starts your best players. Boom! Download the Squad QL app for free on Apple or Droid. You can follow the link below in the description or just search for the Squad QL app. Also, it really helps support this channel, guys. Thank you so much. The potency of the bye weeks are coming slowly to an end. This week we have 4 teams on bye: the Ravens, Broncos, Texans, and Vikings. For quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield did okay last week. I thought he would do well. I always target quarterbacks going against the Chiefs, and this week I have him as number 1. There are a lot of good streaming options, but I feel like Baker Mayfield should be owned in just about every league as a high-end QB2. If you're only rostering one quarterback, then no, you don't need to have Baker Mayfield on your squad. But if you have 2 quarterbacks, even in like a 10-team league, I think Baker Mayfield is worth an ad. He's going against the Falcons. Matt Ryan has been on fire. The Falcons offense has been very good this year. They put up points quick. They put up points just about every game. And their defense is not good, the Falcons defense. So I see Baker Mayfield having a similar situation like he did last week against the Chiefs, where he'll need to throw the ball. Now that 2 coaches are fired on the Browns, Duke Johnson's finally getting some play too, and that also helps out Baker Mayfield. Duke Johnson's a really good player and got 47% of the offensive snaps in week 9. Duke's snaps are a little bit dependent on the game script, but he will be more involved in the offense regardless of game script moving forward. He's just, I just don't know why they didn't play him at all this year until the coaches got fired. Moving on, Marcus Mariota going against the Patriots. Very inconsistent, but that elbow is probably fully healed. He looked pretty good against the Cowboys, and now going against the Patriots, he'll need to throw the ball to try to even compete anywhere close to the points that the Patriots are going to be putting up. I like Mariota this week. He'll be running, he'll be throwing, he'll be doing whatever he can to move the chains and put up points, and I love situations like this. Alex Smith going against the Bucs. I would love Alex Smith way more if he was better this year, and if Washington was healthy. They're really banged up at the receiver position. Him and Reed really haven't been on the same page. It's a little bit mind-boggling why Jordan Reed has been whacked this year. Like, you'd think that if Jordan Reed stayed healthy this year, he'd be a top 5 tight end easily, maybe even top 2 or top 3 possibly. But no, it's not been the case. It's just baffling. And now that both starting offensive guards are injured for Alex Smith, this is nothing more than a risky flyer. The matchup is amazing though. The Bucs defense is horrible. So let's see if Jordan Reed does something this game and Alex Smith does something this game. Then we have Nick Mullins, who did very well last week, but it was against the Raiders. I just have to see how good this guy is against should I call the Giants a real team? I don't know. I guess the Giants are better than the Raiders, but not by much, I guess. Well, I'd say by much, but they're still pretty bad. The Niners have announced that Mullins will be starting at quarterback for the remainder of the year. Look at these sweet matchups, guys. The Giants this week, next week he's on bye, and Tampa Bay the following week. And now we've already entered super deep league territory, obviously, because you probably already have a quarterback that's better than any of these guys. But I want to help you guys out. Those of you in deep leagues and those of you in dual quarterback leagues, I'm helping you out. Brock Osweiler going against the Packers. Similar situation to what I was talking about with Mariota and Mayfield. He's going to have to throw the ball a lot. The Packers are going to win this game. The Packers are going to score points easily. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a G the rest of the year. I already know it. I've been trying to trade Andrew Luck for Aaron Rodgers in both leagues that I own him, because look, I love Andrew Luck, but he's got a tougher schedule, and I feel like Rodgers is going to be way better. But nobody bit. They're too smart, obviously, and I'm going to be stuck with Luck, who's good. Like, I like him. I'll be starting him most weeks, but I don't like the schedule. So hey man, I tried. Anyway, Osweiler gonna need to throw the ball against the Packers. Yeah, I like that. Dak Prescott going against the Eagles. Dak Prescott's value gets boosted with this Amari Cooper trade for sure, but I think this matchup is going to be real tough. I think this is not going to bode well for Dak Prescott. With that being said, he does have Cooper, and he's a good rushing quarterback. He runs well. So, I mean, I guess you could do worse. I had Dak Prescott starting last week in 2 leagues because I was actually only in 1 league because I was super desperate with Andrew Luck on bye. Then we have Blake Bortles going against the Colts and Eli Manning going against the Niners. For running backs, there are actually some good running backs to add. Duke Johnson, if you're in a PPR league, he needs to be added. Ito Smith, still not really picked up. This is nearly a 50-50 split between Smith and Coleman. More like a 60-40 split, but still, I just don't see Coleman being that much better than Ito Smith. Ito, a little bit underrated. Other than maybe 1 or 2 games, we haven't seen Rashad Penny do anything. Coach Pete Carroll is pretty dedicated to hating on any fantasy owner that drafted Rashad Penny. So Chris Carson is injured. He's had a lingering injury, and he just got re-injured this past week, making Mike Davis an extremely good ad. A lot of people will have Mike Davis number 1 on their waiver wire ads, and I'm not going to disagree. I just don't like what could be a 3-headed monster in the future, and I don't really like this matchup. I think the Rams defense is quite scary when they're matched up against the Seahawks. They've always dominated them, and man, it's just, they've always destroyed Russell Wilson, and I think Aaron Donald is such a good player, and that's why I don't have him ranked number 1. Like, I was surprised that Duke Johnson and Ito Smith were not owned in more leagues, so that's why I had to put him number 1 and number 2. Also, Ito Smith does have a good matchup against the Browns. But nonetheless, Mike Davis needs to be owned in just about every league as well. With Raheem Mostert going on IR, Alfred Morris again becomes relevant. And we all know Matt Breida is always banged up. What a tough guy, huh? A tough guy battling through the injuries. I mean, the guy plays every game, and he plays pretty well banged up. Quite the surprise here. Matt Breida has been nothing short of amazing if we were to say that he would be healthy, right? I mean, with being banged up, he's been doing okay. And when he was fully healthy, he was amazing. Now the slow Alfred Morris becomes relevant, and I like him a little bit more in non-PPR leagues. But a lot of people desperate for running back, especially if you drafted guys like David Johnson, Derrick Henry, Jerick McKinnon. I'm naming everyone in that Yahoo league I did. Nyheim Hines, great ad in PPR leagues. They're just coming off a bye, the Colts that is, so he won't be owned in too many leagues. Elijah McGuire, been talking about him. I think this is the 3rd video I've been talking about him. Now that he's healthy, he's okay. They'll be playing him more and more, I see, throughout the next few weeks. Jamal Williams, the backup running back for the Packers. He'll get some run. Aaron Jones is the man now with Ty Montgomery gone, but still don't forget about Jamal Williams. He's more of a RB4, maybe RB3 or flex for your squad. He really is around that territory, but a lot of teams do own 4 or 5 running backs, so he's more than fantasy relevant, if not at least a bye week fill-in or just to add depth at running back. Whatever reason you may have, I see several reasons for adding Jamal Williams to your squad. Then we have Gio Bernard coming from a knee injury. I actually had him ranked in my top 4, and I was like, wait a second, like, he's not going to get that much run. Mixon's the main guy. He's a good handcuff, but he's kind of owned in a lot of leagues. He was drafted in a lot of leagues and not really worth the draft pick, except when Mixon went down. If Mixon goes down, yeah, Gio Bernard becomes an RB1, like, no doubt about it. Still worth an ad in some leagues, but I mean, we're getting into deeper league territory here. Then we have quite the committee. It's quite the messy situation ever since Ajayi went down. We have Smallwood, who's been getting most of the carries. I thought Corey Clement would be the man, but he's got the fewest carries the last week. And then Josh Adams, I had him as a super deep league sleeper and a dynasty pick, more of a deep league dynasty pick, or dynasty drafts where there's about 20 rounds. And he actually got more carries than Corey Clement. I was a huge fan of him coming out of college, went undrafted. He's kind of got an upright running style, a power back. And one of the knocks on him, like why he went undrafted, he did have an injury coming out of the draft, going into the draft, sorry. And also he got knocked because he had two of the best offensive linemen. So this guy's good, but I'm talking, this is strictly dynasty and deep leagues though. This is a running back situation in Philly that I probably don't want to mess with. And if Chris Thompson is out, I like Capri Bibbs. I don't know much about Chris Thompson's status. If I had to guess right now, would he play or would he not play? I would say Chris Thompson would not play week 10. That's just a guess though. We have to wait till maybe around Friday to really know if Chris Thompson has a realistic shot of playing or not this week. Wide receivers Traquan Smith is not owned in enough leagues, and it's quite shocking to me. He needs to be owned in a lot of leagues. With Ted Ginn going down, he directly replaces the Ted Ginn role. He has Drew Brees throwing him the ball. Enough said, right? MVS needs to be owned in a lot of leagues right now because Geronimo Allison is injured. Seems like he's going to miss the entire season. And MVS becomes a starting wide receiver on the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball. Christian Kirk could be the best wide receiver on the Cardinals and needs to be owned in a lot more leagues. Then we have this sort of debacle here. I like Maurice Harris a lot this week going against Tampa Bay. It's a bit insane how many fantasy points Tampa Bay allows the slot receiver. We know Jarvis Landry, I believe, had his best game going against the Bucks. Tyler Boyd, who plays from the slot a lot, had a great game going against the Bucks. Why not Maurice Harris? Alex Smith actually has thrown to him quite a bit this past game, and he's a starting wide receiver now. Paul Richardson, by the way, has been placed on IR with several other players on the Washington team. But you can also try to go with Crowder. He does have an ankle injury. Don't know if he's going to play or not. Josh Doxson will play, but he's been kind of a bust draft pick in terms of real life NFL. We'll see. I mean, you could just pick a Washington receiver and start him, see what happens. I would go with Harris if I have to for this week though. Just kind of like the Rams and other teams, it's tough to predict which wide receiver will do well for Washington, and that's just the way it is. Alex Smith likes to spread the ball and he doesn't put up a ton of points, and I don't know which wide receiver is going to do well. But Maurice Harris should be playing from the slot, and I do like that. So that's my reason for picking Harris this week. I guess we should boost him up to number 4. Then we have Tajay Sharp, if Tywan Taylor is hurt. Adam Humphries, who's, man, I don't know what's going on. This is Tampa Bay team, but they're throwing to Brait. Well, not really that much, but they're throwing to Brait sometimes. They're throwing to O.J. Howard, Humphries, Godwin, Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson. They are throwing a lot. Ryan Fitzpatrick's putting up huge numbers this year, and when he's actually playing. And they cannot run the ball. So it's been happening. And I talked about Humphries being a sleeper last week. Then we have another messy situation here with Amendola, Stills, Parker, and Grant going against Green Bay. And I do not have a favorite here. I think Amendola would be the best one to get. But it's a similar type of situation like I was talking about. Take a guess which one's going to do well, because your guess is as good as mine when it comes to Dolphins receivers. Then we have Quincy Enunwa coming back from injury. Probably wasn't 100% last week, but I do see him being the number 1 wide receiver for the Jets again. And it might take a week or two, or it might be this week. DJ Moore of the Panthers, Curtis Samuel of the Panthers, John Ross. By the way, AJ Green is out at least 2 weeks, then will be reevaluated. So he might miss 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and that's pretty much the rest of the fantasy season, at least the fantasy regular season before playoffs. Des Bryant is a free agent, and I think the Saints are going to sign a wide receiver. And out of the wide receivers that had a workout with them, Brandon Marshall, Kamar Aiken, I think Dez Bryant's the most likely wide receiver to be on that squad. And I mean, I don't know, but I think I told everyone not to draft Dez Bryant, at least not to draft him like as a top 11 pick. You know, I thought that was insane. I told everyone to drop him that did draft him, like, don't waste a roster spot when you have 6 teams on bye. Like, it's insane. So now is the time where, if a lot of the bye weeks have passed, if you're in a league with a deep bench, or you're in a deep league, now is the time to consider adding Dez Bryant back. And I got him ranked number 14, guys, so I'm not like, pick up Dez Bryant, it's going to be amazing. Realistically, he's going to be a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2 on any team if he signs, and he's going to be like a wide receiver 3 in fantasy, which is definitely worth an add. But remember, that's his upside. It's not, and as of right now, he has 0 fantasy points, so it's a lot of risk. Not much upside, only in deep leagues, only in leagues with deep benches. David Moore on the Seattle Seahawks. Then we have another one of these, Moncrief, Westbrook, Cole. I guess you could take your pick. I think something's going to happen. Blake Bortles might have a few good drives, and 1 or 2 receivers might go off. Good luck figuring out which one that's going to be for the Jaguars. Then we have Terrell Pryor of the Bills, emergency quarterback as well as a wide receiver, I'd imagine, especially with Nathan Peterman if he's starting, and TJ Jones of the Lions. So you probably don't want to pick up, but I like making this list extensive, and some people tell me they enjoy that as well. Tight ends, Jack Doyle, because he was on bye, is not owned in enough leagues. Needs to be added. CJ Uzama with AJ Green out should be getting a lot of targets. Vance McDonald, a little bit underrated. Not quite getting the targets we'd like as Vance McDonald owners, but I do see him getting more targets eventually. Chris Herndon has actually become quite a reliable tight end too. I did start him last week when I was really desperate. I had Eric Ebron, and somebody already added CJ Uzama, who's on bye anyway. But I needed a tight end, and I started Chris Herndon, and he's actually been pretty good as of late. Sam Darnold looks to his way, and there's not a lot of good tight ends. Then we have Ben Watson of the Saints, Ricky Seals-Jones of the Cardinals, Jason Kroon with Charles Clay, unlikely to play this week, Vernon Davis, any Jaguars tight end, any Lions tight end, and any Seahawks tight end if you're super duper desperate in a 20-team league or something like that. For defenses and kickers, I have extensive lists for those of you in deep leagues. So if you're in a deep league, leave a comment and thank me. By the way, guys, have you liked this video yet? Smash the like. Have you subscribed yet? Please subscribe to all my YouTube channels. Jets D going against the Bills, and the Chargers D going against the Raiders. Sure, we can change it. We can have the Chargers number 1 and the Jets number 2. It don't really matter, honestly. Now, if Nathan Peterman's starting, I think Jets should be number 1. But even if Derek Anderson is starting, he's way better than Nathan Pick 6 Peterman. But at the same time, Derek Anderson hasn't even practiced that much with this team. Like, it's not that much better. Like, if Derek Anderson was signed and he was playing with the Bills for an entire season, preseason, training camp, then that's a significant difference. And even in the unlikely scenario Josh Allen comes back, he may not be 100%. So that's why I do have the Jets ranked number 1. Now, Chargers D, just as good, man. Going against the Raiders, this can be a risky, disgusting game for the Raiders, like we've been seeing all year, especially this last game against the Niners, where they got dominated in all phases of the game. Patriots D, I actually stashed the Pats D last week in a couple leagues where I had deep benches, because I knew they didn't have a good matchup against the Packers, but it was like on and off, right? Packers, bad matchup. Then that's week 9, right? Then week 10, Titans, good matchup. Then week 11, bye week. It's not a good matchup, obviously. And then week 12 against the Jets, good matchup. And we all know the division they're in. They play the Bills, the Jets, the Dolphins. All good matchups. They play them twice. So I do like the Patriots for this week and also week 12. And I'm sure they have at least one or two more good matchups for the remainder of the season. Bills going against the Jets. Bills' defense is pretty good, but their offense is so bad, it affects the defense. No doubt about it. But this could be a really messy, low-scoring game, so they're worth considering. I think the Eagles are much safer, much better. Like I said, I think this is a good matchup for the Eagles. I think they will dominate this game against the Cowboys. Packers D going against the Dolphins. Dolphins may not put up a ton of points. Chiefs D got picked up last week. I wasn't too high on them. I told you guys they do have some upside. They're very risky, but they're just not good. And I did like Baker Mayfield. Everyone was really down on Mayfield. And I was like, look, Mayfield, he's got a little bit of upside, okay? And they didn't do so well, the Chiefs D last week. So they are owned in too many leagues. Probably don't deserve to be on this list because they're owned in over 70% of leagues, something like that. But they will be dropped. Just like people disregarded Mayfield and said he'd be garbage this week and the Chiefs D would be good. They'll get emotional. They'll drop him. I see 5% of fantasy owners dropping the Chiefs. So they might be available in your league. You might be able to pick them up free agency later. So they're playing against the Cardinals. I do think they'll bounce back a bit and have a decent game. Look, they're ranked number 7 on my list. So obviously I'm still not in love with them. But I think the Cardinals offense could be worse than the Browns offense. I like the Chiefs D this week. They're at home, by the way. 49ers going against Eli Manning and the Giants. Giants going against the Niners. Browns D going against, this is super duper deep league, desperate play. I don't want to start the Browns D against the Falcons, but I figured the Falcons offense will not be good for at least 1 or 2 games, right? Might be this game. I do like the Browns defense in general, just not this week per se, but I do want to add them for people who are in deep leagues and are desperate. Then we have Washington going against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a good offense, but kind of risky and kind of one-dimensional because they pass a lot. For kickers, my number 1 kicker is actually the Chargers kicker, Mike Badgley. And I did a little bit of research. He seems okay. Seems very accurate. 10 for 10 field goals, 3 for 3 extra points. I don't see a reason why he won't be good. I like the move that they cut Caleb Sturgis. They had to let him go. They probably should have let him go earlier. And now we have Mike Badgley as my number 1 kicker. Excellent matchup. I see him putting up a ton of points. I actually see him having a decent floor and a really high ceiling. Now my number 1 kicker. What else you want? Number 1 kicker from the Kicker Whisperer. That's what I call myself. Oh, not too many other people call me that, but I call myself that. Number 2, Jake Elliott. Already went over this matchup. Same reasons. Think the defense will do good. Wentz is a good quarterback. Eagles is a good team. They'll have plenty of opportunities to kick extra points or field goals. Then the Falcons kicker, who I could have ranked number 1, but I didn't really want to because we don't know what's going on, and it's not really worth a waiver claim if we don't know if Matt Bryant's going to start or if Tavecchio is going to start. But as a free agency ad, once we're close to Thursday or Friday, maybe we'll have a clearer picture. Maybe they'll release Tavecchio or whatever happens, we'll know which Atlanta Falcons kicker to get. Very good kicker, whichever one it is, Tavecchio or Bryant this week. I love them. Mason Crosby going against the Dolphins. Robbie Gould, Dustin Hopkins. Should I read all these? All right. Myers, Vinatieri, Boswell, Parkey, Lambeau, Joseph, Aldrich Roses, Ryan Suckup. And if you're in 32-team leagues, we have guys like Prater, Catanzaro, and Randy Bullock to wind down the list. Make sure you guys follow the link below and download the Squad QL app. I'd really appreciate it. It's on iTunes. It's on Google Play. Also, make sure you guys subscribe to this YouTube channel. Just hit the couch icon over here. And we have a second YouTube channel, Fantasy Couch Podcast. You don't want to miss the upcoming podcast, guys. They're going to keep getting better and better. So trust me, subscribe to our second channel as well. Like the video if you liked it. Dislike if you're a hater. And I'll see you on the next video / live stream.